Good evening. Welcome to the Danbury Dems. My name is John Gogliettino. I'm your host. It's the end of one year and the beginning of another term for the Danbury Dems. With me is Andrea Gartner. She's the chair of the Danbury Dems and Danbury Democrats. We're going to be talking about what does a Democratic Party do, what is the structure of it, and things like that. We always have a need for volunteers. Let me say this now, we'll repeat it. We're located at 161, I always got to take a look because I never remember that number, 161 Main Street here in Danbury. Our telephone number is 203-748-3661, and it's danburydemocrats.com is our website. So without further ado, I'd like to tell us a little bit about you for those that don't know, because there's always people moving into town, and it could be non-Democrats watching also. So go say something about yourself as how you.
Absolutely, I'm a lifelong Greater Danbury area resident. So I spent a lot of my time growing up in downtown Danbury. My parents were both from Germany, and there used to be a German club downtown. So I spent my Saturdays at language lessons there, and there was a great deli on Main Street and Elm that sold German cold cuts. So my mother considered that her butcher. And being raised by Germans, I took accordion lessons at a music school that used to be on Keeler Street. So the neighborhood I grew up in was mostly Danbury, but I lived in the Bethel part of that neighborhood, so I did go to Bethel Public Schools. And I went away to college, came back to raise my family, initially landing back in Danbury, then Brookfield, and raising my family in Richfield, and then I'm back in Danbury since 2010. So that's kind of it, I guess, in a nutshell.
So you have a good smattering of the entire area and the immigrant background.
Yes.
Okay. The entire life for both of us has been one of knowing the immigrants that are here, and that's always been with us.
Yeah, and I think it's the experience of growing up. I'm the first American in my family on both sides of the family, so it's different when you're a kid growing up and your parents don't have mastery of the language. So you kind of, you have to help them navigate forms and kind of make sure they're understanding things correctly. I mean, my parents were both professional people, but there were those times.
Right. And I had the same thing from my Italian side, so. But in any case,
Germans and Italians get along, so not always in a good way.
Let's talk about how the town committee works. On each of the wards, there's 7 wards in the city.
Yeah, so sometimes I think for people who are new to wanting to get involved in a local party, so our Democratic Party is actually technically called our Danbury Democratic Town Committee.
Right.
And everyone who serves on the town committee is elected. And there are 2 forms of town committees in the state of Connecticut. And one is a at-large town committee, and they get elected through caucus. So you basically elect like a whole body of people all at once. Then there's also the district way of representing on a town committee, and we follow that in Danbury along our wards. So we have 7 wards in Danbury. And each of the wards is represented by 4 members who serve on the Democratic Town Committee, thus comprising sort of the leadership of the party.
Right. And
representing all of the Democrats.
Yeah, and the way it works is that roughly in January, petitions are taken out, and the 4 people get to say, let's work together. Now, if some reason or other there's other people, then there's actually an election. If there, let's say 2 other people wanted to come on, there's only room for 4 under the current rules is 4 per ward. Then you'd have an election even if it's just 5.
Yeah. So the term election is used in the sense that the process, as you were saying, is that people, in order to be considered as a candidate, as a member, you have to get a certain amount of signatures, and that number of signatures comprises 5% of all registered Democrats in the ward that you're looking to serve under, or serve for as a member of the party. There's room for 4. So if there's more than 4 people who want to participate, then that goes into a primary. Right. But it only goes into the primary if everyone who wants to participate has reached those qualifying numbers.
Right. You know, and so one way or the other, there is an election going on, because you're getting, like in the case of the 6th ward, we got 120 signatures.
I have to tell you one thing that I've become acutely aware of since becoming chair of this party. There is always an election going on.
Which is good. You know, that way you get feedback from the population, so to speak.
Well, it keeps us connected, I think, too.
Now, our next meeting is March 9th. What happens at this meeting, and anybody that's out there that's, I think we have an open house, so you can actually have anybody.
The first part of the meeting is allowed for public comments and people to attend.
Right.
Once we start the business of the meeting of the town committee, then that's not open to the public. Although some topics that we discuss really, people are possibly invited to participate in that conversation. But in general, the first part of the meeting is open for public comments and guest speakers. And on that particular meeting in March, because the process of seating a new town committee is, once the petitions have been brought in and verified, you still have to wait till after the primary day to be able to seat the new town committee. So that primary day was March 3rd, and so this is the first meeting after that.
Okay.
So we will elect new officers.
Right, at that point. Okay. Now, one of the things in the new year we're going to talk about is expanding the committee. That may not be an automatic, but there's definitely a need in each committee, whether it's the 1st ward, the 3rd ward, all of the 7 wards. You need a backup people to help.
I think so, because we've really had a lot of participation in the last 2 election cycles, and this is really a great problem to have, right? There's people who want to come onto our town committee and want to find a way to participate in the Danbury Democratic Party. One way to do that is to expand the members of our town committee. That's going to be part of, and we may or may not do that. So what definitely needs to happen is a bylaws review.
Right.
The bylaws, are literally from last century. And even if they're from 1999, they're still 20 years old, and they need a look-see. And I've done this with nonprofit boards before, where you go through the trouble of doing a review and looking at everything and decide to keep things. So we're going to do a pretty objective review, and part of that review will be a discussion of whether or not to expand the town committee.
Right, but that way we'd have some kind of expansion. But on the other hand, you can join one of the subcommittees. Like, for example, in the 6th ward, we never seem to have enough, to get out there to all of the Democrats that we have. We have a larger group, or just people that are out there that they want to hear about our party philosophy. Right,
and the way I describe it to people, if people are interested in volunteering as a to help move the party, help move democratic values forward in our community, that literally it is a frontier. Like, you're gonna start at one end of the plane, and you can just keep walking and keep finding things to do, because there is literally so much that always needs to be done. So if it's not phone banking or door knocking or helping sending mail, help get petitions, volunteering for events. There's setup, there's breakdown, there's postcard campaigns we might be doing. The day of election, we drive people. There's attending events and representing as Democrats. It's keeping people informed, helping us. And I could just keep, there's just always so much. And everyone has their own way of giving. And all of those things are really important. So, some things I think maybe get some more visibility. So you might think of them as more important, but all those kind of, weave together and help build a strong foundation for us to keep moving forward and picking up, gains in representation in city government.
Now, we know this, but just to vocalize it, and that is, what's the primary job of the Democratic Town Committee?
Primarily it is to elect Democrats, plain and simple. But I have found too that people are more engaged with our party and with our candidates when we have a platform or some values that we're trying to move forward. Very recently we were a very visible voice for transparency in local government. We've managed to pick up 10 now of the 21 seats in the city council in this past election. We now have a 6-5 majority in Board of Ed and a 6-3 majority on the Zoning Commission. So things have shifted, even though the consequence of the election wasn't really what we really wanted. It's still a big change from really business as usual in the city. Although business as usual keeps trying to move itself forward. So that's why we really came out about transparency about the bond that's coming up.
Yeah, you always have conflict when there's one philosophy of doing things there, and then there's another philosophy that may be in by one seat, and the mayor being not of our party. So you have a different philosophy there, and you're always going to have some clash about how things are getting done.
And the real challenge is, we are all a part of the same community, and this is what I also advise people if they're going door knocking or canvassing or doing some phone banking. And because things nationally have gotten so strident, from both ends of the political spectrum, that we really have to be careful to respect the political views people hold. And I always like to mention first that we're all living in the same community, so we really have more in common than we don't. In the end, so it's a matter of finding that common ground, and it's still a free country. Guess what? We get to hold our political views, no matter how acceptable or unacceptable they might be to someone as an individual.
And there's that old expression that's been around for years and years and years, and that is, all politics is local.
It is, yeah.
Something starts at the local level and it works its way up, and if you're treating yourselves good at the local level, then things will eventually, even if there's an aberration, eventually it'll turn, so things will be better at the national level also eventually.
Well, or we can just, because we share values as a community, as members of the same community, we can try to focus more on those values, right? We all want the best education we can have for our kids. We all want navigable roads within town, and our property values to hold their value. I'm gonna, a downtown that's attractive for people to spend time in. So those are shared values that we have as a community.
So once more, for those that are out there, we'll say it another time, and that is the DanburyDemocrats.com, 203-748-3661. Where it's.
But I'm going to correct you, John, because it's actually 778.
77, what did I say?
778. You said 748.
Okay,
so
778 3661.
Yeah.
I'm giving my fax machine.
And we're located right on Main Street, right next to the historic Palace Theater.
Okay.
The same location we've been in for 30 plus years.
Right. So
40 plus.
So that's March 9th. You're welcome to come down to our meeting and express any comments during that public
or even
comment.
just to observe. I mean, because we have. It's been one of the most rewarding things, like in my time as chair, is that really, because I know how my experience coming into the party was, and what motivated me to get involved. Everyone has their own reason.
Right.
There's people, you've been involved for a very long time, so you have a wealth of background information. It's important that we're able to bridge the people who have been whose blood runs blue, Danbury blue, for all these decades, and also bring in newer people.
Right.
And there's, like I said earlier, there's never a shortage of things to do. And just observe. It doesn't mean just
They
because
don't
we
have
have
to
public speaking, you don't have to speak.
You don't have to speak.
Just come in and
might scare them
observe.
that way. Yeah, that's true. They may actually say something to get them working. So
yeah, and then if
you
you're
can come and
interested in
observe.
something, and the very easiest thing to do is on our website, danburydemocrats.com. There's a link you can get. You can make an inquiry. There's an email distribution that goes out on a regular basis. Just to start, you can add to your email list. And if you want to, not go directly to the website, just email me. My address is my first name, Andrea, Andrea, the number 4, danbury@gmail.com. So it's Andrea for danbury@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I'll put you on that list, and then you'll know, you'll be aware of everything that we're up to.
Now, Democrats that want to be active in some way, you just suggested that, but if they come down and they want to talk to you about one thing or another, what are some of the opportunities? If there's a spot, for example, on EIC, you can recommend.
Environmental Impact Commission, for those who don't know.
Yeah, I use the initials because I used the percent, and I was thinking, wait a minute, they're not going to know. And okay, but if there was a spot there open, you can recommend names to the mayor.
Sure, I can recommend them, but there's never a guarantee that they're going to be accepted. I have yet to recommend a name that's been accepted, so that might not be necessarily the pathway. But there's also, for example, someone reached out, they'd like to get involved on some boards. So Danbury's, again, we're such a great community that there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer or serve on nonprofit boards. That's a way of getting connected into the community. And then make some recommendations to some of these, to the vacancies for these commissions. I'd be happy to do that, but I haven't had much success yet.
Well, I'm told that there are spots there.
Yes, well, no, there's lots of spots, yeah. There's a lot of vacancies.
I mean, one of the points of this show is to highlight that there's spots and they're not being filled. So maybe if somebody would say to the mayor, if you have 4 Republicans on there, maybe you should put a couple of Democrats on there.
Yeah, I think it goes back to one of our points during the election was about transparency in government.
Right.
Just having a little more transparency, a little more balance.
A little more balance on all of the boards and commissions and what have you.
And just to have balanced input. I mean, to have different perspectives and points of view.
And then there's we have the constable. No, constables are elected, but there's another position that you appoint.
The justices of the peace.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was in the back of my mind. The justices of the peace are actually appointed, by yourself, I believe. I'm not sure the committee at the whole votes. So if someone's interested in that and marrying people.
And get in touch with me.
Yeah, so
sure.
That's another way people can get involved.
And then when we have events, and we're reaching out to the community too. That's another way. Generally, in a lot of community events, we'll just reach out to those people on that email distribution. Say we'd like to have a presence at one of the community fundraisers, and anyone interested, we'll try to seat people together. So there's a social component too. That's really nice.
We're going to have things on the community bulletin board, but you have something at the end of the month.
So that's something that's my hope is, we have some debt that's left over from our elections, and we want to clear that debt before the new committee is seated. So on February 28th, we have an event. It's called Dem Girls Happy Hour and Wine Tasting. So it's Friday, February 28th from 4 to 7. It's up online, danburydemocrats.com. We have 4 different levels. It's just a matter of, we'd like to see people participating and giving, but understanding that, budgets are tight and whatnot. So
they can go to the website on that.
They can go to the website. Okay. The levels are $15, $25.
No, we can't.
Oh, we can't do that. Sorry.
I can't say that. But they can go to the website.
Sorry, FCC.
Okay.
They can go to the website.
We got our Comcast rules, but
yes, and I forgot about those. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then we have our springtime fundraiser in May the 26th, and we'll have information going on the bulletin board and what have you. That's like that's our major dinner and. Have you got
I'm close. I've been in communication with the Congresswoman's scheduler, and so I think we're close. So we're hoping that the Congresswoman, Jahana Hayes, will be our keynote speaker.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, anything else you'd like to talk about? Did you go to I didn't get a chance to go. I was actually thinking of going to see the governor's address. You want to talk about that?
I had an invitation to go, but I didn't. I'd done that before.
Okay.
One thing I would like to say, and really hats off to our delegation. So we have 5 delegates in the State House that represent Danbury. Senator Julie Kushner is in the Senate, represents all of Danbury. We have Bob Godfrey, who's a tenured,
he's always the deputy speaker.
He's the deputy speaker of the House. He's got a tenured position there at the State House, which comes with a lot of experience, a lot of benefits, and also the larger view and being able to really craft legislation that will pass. We have David Arconti, Ken Gucker, and Raheb Ali Brennan. And we have some tough elections coming up in this year for all of them, really, specifically, though, Julie Kushner, Ken Gucker, and Raheb Ali Brennan. So what I really would like to tell people is that the best thing about really getting involved and getting involved in campaigns is you get to know these legislators. And it seems, if you don't have the experience of really being connected to people that represent you in the State House, it's worthwhile because our delegation is so accessible. They have a good repartee going. They've brought back a lot of benefits to Danbury. We've gotten more funding in education than in years past, and additional funding to that. They've become very creative about how to attract some of this funding and solutions for Danbury. And they're also conduits into the resources at the state. As anyone who's maybe living in Danbury knows, we have a bit of an educational crisis going on here in our city. And we've got resources with the Education Commissioner and Office of Policy Management, and our delegation is like really a direct line to all that. And that they're accessible. And your government really is more accessible than you might think. And you really get to see that when you start volunteering and get that front row view.
And there's been comments directly from them that, for example, the last meeting where they really worked together and got a number of things done.
Yeah, the Candlewood Lake invasive species. There's a lot of green initiatives. Both David Arconti and Raheb Ali Brennan, David chairing that committee, Raheb Ali Brennan, I think he's vice chair, if I'm not mistaken.
He's definitely on there. Yeah.
Really doing a lot of initiatives around green energy, which is really exciting. And like I said, they're very accessible.
And the family leave bill was passed.
Yeah, paid family leave, minimum, a $15 minimum wage.
Right.
Yeah, they've really done a lot of work this past year as a delegation.
Yeah, so they've been active, and if anybody that's out there that wants to get involved with their re-election effort, that's another source of work that's going to be coming up. Each of the committees, you can contact the 24th with Julie Kushner. You can go to Bob Godfrey directly. I don't happen to have his email or his website, but you can do so through our website, Danbury Dems.
Yeah, there's a page where you can make an inquiry.
Yeah, DanburyDemocrats.com, and work with one of those campaigns where you live, or just with your favorites, so to speak, out of the people that we were talking about.
And there's also the opportunities that are important to us. For example, the census is coming up, and it's really important that Danbury get an accurate count of who's in the households. And there's some concern that people might not be answering the questions honestly or being counted. There's actually paid work that what someone can get through the census, and they're paying quite well. They're paying about $25 an hour.
Right. So that's we can direct you in that direction. For those people that have. We've got like another 4 minutes or so. Too bad we don't have this is not a call-in setup. But haven't arranged that yet. One of these months we'll have a call-in show. But
well, we could also talk about just maybe the process of how candidates get nominated. So it is the town committee.
Yeah,
and
but
one of
conventions.
One of the town committee is the body that nominates the candidates for all of the elected offices.
Yeah, but don't forget the district. That the 24th district. It's
Right. We
it's
also have our
Danbury,
conventions.
and we have the so there's room for delegates to these conventions. The 24th covers several towns, so the other towns are going to come in, but you could be a delegate to that convention for the 24th, and. I think Allie Brennan, his is shared with the neighboring town, and we may have a couple of shared spots on our peripherally, but the other ones are done, like Dave Arcani, he's within the Danbury, but we need delegates to that too. So if people are interested, that's another way you can be interested. We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, it's really an incredible civics lesson. And like I said earlier, it's just I do consider it a frontier because my initial involvement was as a candidate for city council at large, and then then it was coming onto the town committee. And then it was being a candidate again, and just.
You were on zoning for a while, right?
Yes, yeah, I was on zoning for a term, and then this past election also ran as a candidate. So there really is no end to how to get involved, and it's there's also something really rewarding about first of all, we can all complain about what's going on out there in the world. But when you actually make a decision to do something, to really act on your displeasure, your discontent, or your disappointment in what's going on, it's a constructive and good outlet, and it really does make a difference. Excuse me. We made a big difference this past election. We turned out through our Get Out the Vote efforts, 4,000 more voters than in the previous municipal elections. Our turnout was 165% above the election 2 years ago. So we are definitely moving and inspiring people to participate in the democratic process. And that's what makes us unique as a country, but we need to really fight for it in our own community.
So once again, DanburyDemocrats.com. Telephone number again, 203-778-3661. And
also feel reach out to me too.
Or come to the March 9th meeting of the town committee, and you can be in the back. And they're waving to me. Good night, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, that was quick.
Yeah.
That's good.